There's a type of person you can't help but envy. They never need to call a repairman. Something breaks, they fix it themselves. But what I want to tell you today is that this kind of ability may not be the freedom you imagine it to be. It's quite possibly a trap, one of the most sophisticated and least visible traps of self-exploitation in our time. And the strangest part? The people who fall into it tend to be the smartest and most independent ones. In today's video, we're going to do 3 things. First, break down the real psychological mechanism behind this compulsion to fix. Second, trace how our era has quietly reinforced it. And third, offer a concrete mental framework to help you figure out whether picking up that tool right now comes from a place of freedom or anxiety. We tend to romanticize the ability to fix things. It symbolizes self-sufficiency, a pushback against consumerism, a victory of the hands over digital emptiness. But what if we pause the praise and take a closer look at the daily life of this fixer? Where does his time actually go? Countless nights and weekends given over to tasks he could have paid someone else to handle. Is that really saving money? Or is it trading time that can't be priced for something the market already has a clear rate for? What about his relationships? Because he can handle it, he often becomes the free tech support center for friends and family, and boundaries start to blur. And his inner state? There's likely a constant, low-grade background hum. Something else is waiting to be fixed. The issue isn't how much time he spends, it's that he doesn't seem to have a choice. If he doesn't fix it, he feels a quiet, creeping unease. That unease is exactly what we need to talk about today. Sociologist Eva Illouz, in her book Cold Intimacies, argues that modern people have brought emotional relationships into a framework of efficiency and self-optimization, turning human connection into a project that requires constant management rather than a space for genuine rest. Fixing things, once a symbol of liberation, begins to reveal itself as yet another endless task of self-management. So, how does this psychological pattern get reinforced? It's not just a personal habit. First, there's the collapse of trust in the market. We live in an era of planned obsolescence and black box products. You have no idea what's inside your phone. A car computer glitch means a mandatory trip to the dealership. The whole point of this design is to strip users of agency. So, fixing it yourself, which looks like resistance, may actually be the only lonely outlet for a deep distrust of the system. You stop trusting manufacturers, stop trusting repair quotes, and eventually, you only trust your own 2 hands. That's less a display of capability than a fortress built after trust has completely collapsed. Philosophers saw this path, from external distrust to internal self-reinforcement. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han, in The Burnout Society, argues that the subject of an achievement-driven society is not exploited by others, but exploits himself and becomes intoxicated by a kind of violence of, I can. The satisfaction of, I can fix this, fits perfectly into that logic of self-driven exploitation. Second, there's an ancient alliance between certain cultural conditioning and practicalism. In many cultural narratives, being handy is tightly bound to reliability and control. That binding means that asking for help or outsourcing can get unconsciously coded as weakness or failure. Sociologist Michael Kimmel, in Manhood in America, documents this pattern. When someone is raised from childhood to be the person who handles things on his own, feelings of emotional helplessness often get redirected into an excessive focus on and conquest of problems in the physical world. Repair became a permitted, even encouraged substitute for emotional expression. Recognizing this paradox doesn't mean we need to find a neat solution. The shift might happen in a moment like this. When the washing machine acts up again, instead of immediately cutting the power and taking it apart like always, he gives himself 10 minutes just sitting in the chair beside it. He asks himself, am I enjoying the challenge of solving this puzzle? Or am I simply unable to tolerate the uncertainty and cost of waiting for a repairman? That pause, that deliberate break echoing against his usual habit of diving straight at the problem, is exactly what it takes to interrupt an automatic response. There's a more precise psychological framework for the value of that pause. Psychologist Julian Rotter's locus of control theory found that people who are good at fixing things tend to have a strong internal locus of control. And that's genuinely valuable. But here's the counterintuitive part. The stronger someone's internal locus of control, the more discomfort they tend to report when facing events that are truly beyond their control. Not because they're more fragile, but because they have a harder time accepting that some things simply aren't in their hands. Repair may be the most natural tool they reach for to fight that discomfort. There's no easy way out of this paradox. The question really worth asking isn't, should I fix this myself? It's, am I capable of choosing not to? If stopping makes you feel a quiet, creeping anxiety, what deserves your serious attention may not be the broken machine, but the anxiety itself. The person who can fix anything, and the person who never calls a repairman, may both be protecting the same thing in their own way, a sense of security that the world won't let them down. One just uses a wrench. The other uses waiting. After this video ends, I want you to do one thing. Think of something you insisted on handling yourself, and ask whether what drove you was genuine enjoyment or some unease you couldn't quite name. Then tell me in the comments, what was it, and did you ever figure it out?